All right. All right. Welcome everyone. Thanks for taking the time to come and have a chat. Me and Kumi thought it would just be a really good idea for us to all to get together, have a bit of a chat about the new tier, um, to sort of refresh some of the stuff. Um, I guess that a lot of older people in the guild will know from previous tiers, our expectations, all that sort of stuff as well, and then sort of the plan moving forward as well. We've got obviously quite a few new people who haven't raided with us at all. And then some returning people as well. So obviously, welcome to everyone.
Sup, dudes?
I think you'll get used to people's voices. The problem is we're gonna have people who like have different character names to what we call them. So if there's any struggle with that, let us know.
I will be changing my name. I
Oh,
just have to have the
Fine.
money. So don't
thanks.
worry about that. But you might still get Dot and me confused because of his
It'd be
name.
very
I'm
hard if
changing my
there's
name
two
as well.
Brimkins
That's
named
fine.
The
Kari.
voice is pretty similar as well.
Yeah, the voice is very
Yeah,
similar.
Yeah,
I,
I do have
uh,
a rather feminine voice, don't I?
I was thinking a little more
I was thinking more
masculine.
the
I
other
just can't
way.
believe you've fooled you into changing your name.
Nah, I'll be changing to .hot, courtesy of
That's
you.
nice.
I'll be changing mine to Dot Kari.
Yeah,
Oh, for fuck's sake.
dot and dot. Um, I guess first and foremost, like I think a lot of people who we've talked to about joining the guild and everyone else knows that the community is a big part of this guild. Our goal is to get cutting edge, but also we want to be here having fun. We want to enjoy each other's company. And I think the end of this tier, um, it's been a very positive end to the tier. I think everyone's been in really high spirits. We've had good comments about how much people are enjoying the guild, enjoying raiding, or that it didn't quite get to the goal that we wanted. We did do a lot better than we did in the previous tier. And I think there's some key things that me and Comey can take away from that, but I think there's a lot of key things the raid can take away from that. I think no one really got too upset with each other. It was about striving really well for it. Like I honestly think until we got to the last boss, we made some really good time. I think we did really well on Sakan based on the changes when we got there. We did really well on Echo. We got that in a really good time. I think a lot of the guild maybe just wasn't as prepared for Sark and Emboss. And I think maybe Ko and I could have helped prepare people a bit more, but I think people need to be looking at the end boss as the goal, as doing research on that all the way through the tier. We shouldn't be dropping the ball on that as well. And I think moving to this next tier, that should be a huge focus. There'll be a couple bosses in the middle of the raid that'll be really tough, like Echo and Zakan. But the end boss is what is going to be the struggle and the one that's going to trip us up. We've proven at every single tier that we've failed to get cutting edge. We have got to the last boss, and that's where we've really tripped up on it. So I think a big thing going into this tier is focusing on that. Part of that is we've added some extra channels into the Discord, and that really is to have some conversations about bosses. If you have particular weak auras, questions about strategies, or information and guides, those channels are there for them. Ideally, keeping completely on topic with those bosses. And a lot of that will be focused on Mythic and when we get there. There might be some heroic stuff in there, especially the last few bosses can be pretty tricky, but I think a big focus on sharing that knowledge, sharing weak auras and stuff before we get to those bosses, I think is a big key thing, because often we get a weak aura shared after we've already pulled the boss, after we've already been into it. So we can utilize that resource a lot better. I think a big thing as well is, we've been around for a long time in terms of the guild. We're stuck together, and I think most people are enjoying playing with each other, and we want to continue that. So there's obviously raid to be had, but keys to be had, other games as well. And I think as long as we are respectful of each other and strive to keep pushing ourselves and other people for it, and probably a big part of that is respecting people's time as well. If you're turning up to this raid on a Wednesday or Sunday, you are turning up to an organized event with 25 to 30 other people that have also put time aside for this as well. I understand it's a game, but separate to the activity we're doing, there are, when you're in raid, 19 other people relying on you. When you're on the bench, there is 20 people in the raid that is relying on you when you need to come in, that you know what you're doing. You've been watching it, you've been practicing, you're ready to go. And there's plenty of times, and I'm sure a lot of people in here have been in that situation where they've been on the bench for over 100 pulls of the boss, and then they come in for the last 10 pulls and kill the boss. You can't do that if you haven't been watching and you're not up to date with that. And it will be very noticeable if you come in and you can't do the basic mechanic that we've talked about many times and seen people do on stream and in the raid. So it's just important that everyone's putting in that time and really respecting other people's time when they're in the raid as well. Sort of moving on to that, like obviously we're onto the new tier. A big part of, I think, some of the things we felt at last tier were, I guess, having people sticking out the tier. We understand that life happens and things happen, and people might have to take a break or things like that. Just keep in communication with me and Komi. Let us know if things come up. We would rather people plan things out and really be ready for more towards the end of the tier. Don't be afraid to take a night off if you are feeling unwell or if you're very tired or things like that. And really saving yourselves for the end of the tier. We're going to do those harder bosses as well. Same with out here. If you're out here, absolutely no life in these seeds. I hope you haven't burnt yourself out in one week for these seeds, because there's plenty more keys to be done next week and things like that as well. The item level jump is pretty big going into this tier. So Wednesday we'll be going into normal. Depending how quick we get normal done, we'll be hitting heroic or finishing off normal on Sunday and going into heroic from there. Wednesday's obviously going to be a tough one because a lot of people won't have time to do many keys and things like that if they're working. But the expectation for Sunday is you come far more geared than it was on Wednesday, because there'll be plenty of time to do keys, plenty of time to start doing content to upgrade your gear, as it's quite a big jump from that gear as well. So I guess that's another thing when it comes to respecting people's time. I think as you see on the stream, this is our roster so far. I guess one thing I really want to point out with this roster is there's a lot of people who have put a second class on here. If you're putting a second class on here, the expectation is that you are ready to play this class at a mythic level. And I think, people are putting a lot of classes here and saying they're going to keep it up to date. But I'm talking about if you are, for example, on Echo, are you ready to step in on that character and start doing that boss immediately? Do you have the rotation down? Is it fully geared? Are you fully used to that character? Because this isn't a spreadsheet to understand what ults you're playing for fun. We don't really care about that when it comes to a raid perspective. But if there's a need for your ult to come in and you're happy to play it, the expectation, if it's on here, is to come in and mythic raid and just smash it. Komi is a good example. He can play all the tanks. They're usually all pretty geared. I don't think anyone's really even noticed a difference on what tank he's played. Dot probably doesn't even realize he plays multiple tanks.
Wait, what? Nah, of course I do. I brought it up like second week of Tier 1, Season 1.
Brought it up like
Or
3 days after he played a different character.
No, the first time. I think it was the first time he got on his monk, or he's going to bring his monk.
I think it was halfway through the raid, yep.
Yeah. I was like, oh, we're actually going to change main tank. Yeah, anyway.
So I think it's just something you need to be aware of if you are promoting that you are, for example, Page is going to play a monk Mistweaver. The expectation would be if we have a healer away, he would be able to step in as that monk. Otherwise, it just shouldn't be on this list. It shouldn't be an option for us to think about. The other one is obviously there's quite a few people, or a few people have re-rolled. Obviously, a few people who didn't play last year as well. So it's going to be a big expectation of you to get your characters up to scratch, come in blazing pretty much. Again, the Wednesday's going to be pretty rough because there's not a huge amount of time unless you have the day off. But coming in Sunday, again, the expectations are your rotations should be sorted. You should be fairly geared to the level of normal and heroics. There'll obviously be plenty of upgrades in the raid, but don't expect to just get all the gear because you're a low item level and things like that. We'll be making sort of spread out loot. I think, again, I've said it a few times, I think last tier was very successful. I don't think I have any complaints about loot. If there are any conversations about loot, happy to have it, because essentially me and Komi are directing it where we see fit. And in mind for us, our goal is to get cutting edge. So it'll go to people who, or the classes and things like that, we feel is going to improve the raid the most.
Is there an add-on we need for the loot for when you hand it
RC
out?
Loot Council.
Yeah, I was about to say it's RC Loot Council is the one that we use, so you need to have that one. We'll
Yeah,
be
no
using that one on the Monday alt runs as well. I think the format that we used for the Monday alt runs worked really well, which was, and it probably won't be very good for the first few weeks because everyone's mains will be locked. But we had immediately people could bring alts and people could bring people in the guild. We'll do normal once normal's dropped from main raid. We'll do heroic once it's dropped from main raid. But priority of trinkets and unique items and rare items will go to any raider that's there that needs it and is part of the mythic team. Again, we had no complaints about that. People brought their shitty alts, got fully geared with the crap we didn't need, and the really good items went to people that would benefit the raid. So we'll continue that because I think it brings people to that raid and also promotes or encourages raiders to bring their big characters, get the gear they want. Like, you know, you're not gonna be upset because an alt's taken your best in slot trinket, because we'll prioritize the raiders for that.
We're doing that Monday from week 1 still.
We'll do it from week 1. It'll probably be a pretty scuffed raid because it will only be alts. But I'm definitely aiming to clear a normal on my warrior because
I'm trying to remember, did we last year just continue the lockout on the Monday or something with
I
whoever
think we-
turned up?
I think we may have. I can't really remember, but I think previous we have done that. We've done like heroic on the Sunday, and then we continued heroic on the Monday.
Yeah.
You know, maybe we're from the last boss and we're close. We'll feel it out. We'll keep that free flowing. It won't be required. It'll be an optional raid if people want to turn up to it, if that's the case. But you know, we're not a 3-week night raiding guild, so yeah, there you go. Finished suck. Did we get on to the first week? That's pretty good. It could be very beneficial because obviously we gave tier tokens to give everyone 2 set, and then everyone got, or 3 set, and then everyone got. We'll have 1 catalyst charge, and then if you kill Cutting Edge, you'll get what 1600 or get 2k in keys. You get a token, so it means you could like potentially a lot of people get 4 set week 1 or week 2.
To that note, it's super important that you don't send your catalyst charge on week 1. You really want to hold it. I mean, if you get, you know, mythic eye level myth track socketed helmet out of the vault on that second week, you can send it to you, that's fine. But really make sure you're strategic with it so everyone gets 4-piece super easy. Out of raid tier is dropping as was at the end of last patch, so 1 to 3 instead of 1 to 1. So there will be a little bit less tier out of the raid, but obviously we've got the catalyst, we've got 2k IO or AOTC, and the PvP one as well to get the guaranteed heroic piece.
Wait, so there's 3 guaranteed pieces this season?
2.
Okay.
Well, there's the catalyst is week 1, which is that, but there's just the heroic piece that's guaranteed is complete any of the following AOTC, 2k, or 1600 PvP.
Okay, cool. So it's same as this season.
Yeah, same as last season, except catalyst early and less tier in raid.
Obviously, with Loot Council, it's important to put as much information in my note as possible. Understanding what your BIS really is. You know, an item might be a big upgrade for you, and when we get into normal, every item will be a big upgrade. But it doesn't necessarily mean you need to roll on it. Like if you're going to roll on the worst stats for you, but it's such a big item level upgrade, it's probably BIS for someone else. So we'll adjust the options in RC Loot Council to be fairly clear. It wasn't very clear last year, sorry. In terms of it is the best stats and best item, or it is just a big upgrade, small upgrade, etc. We'll just make it clear with that. And if it's a BIS, we need notes on there, like BIS trinket drops. Tell me how BIS it is. Is it your number 1 trinket? Is it like the one that breaks your spec? Is it a 10k DPS upgrade? More information you can give, the better. We obviously have resources ourselves to check, but we don't want to miss if it is actually really good for a spec and it wasn't on a guide that we saw or something like that. So more information, the better. In saying that, on audit, for people who haven't seen this, I think that's showing up on my screen. Yep. This here is a really important tool that we use for a lot of things. In the schedule channel, it will show the raids, but it all feeds from this. So you can look at the calendar, you can see the upcoming raids. And if you want to go, let's say Wednesday, you can mark yourself as away, as Nudes has already marked himself away. Great, we know he's not here on Wednesday. This is really important for us to understand if we're short people or who's coming, if we're short tanks, if we're short healers, we can pre-plan this sort of stuff. If you're away for an extended period of time, you can come into all the different raids all the way in the future and mark yourself as absent on those. So
Wait,
super important.
you mean tanks get a break if they want?
We all know you have no life perch and all you do is How many world quests did you do last season, Bert?
Not many.
Oh. So this tool is really important for that. In here as well, there's also a wish list section. I think it will go live within. In fact, it looks like it's live now.
Yeah, already.
Cool. So you can go in here. You can choose which items are on your wish list. There is a way also to upload based on simming as well. I've forgotten exactly how to do that, but
I think it's
Click
in
on personal.
yeah, personal under here, so you can edit it. It'll tell us exact item level upgrades and stuff. If you're going to do this, it's important to do it regularly because obviously your gear will upgrade and the percentage upgrades will change. But this is a real good way for us to know what is this. Again, you shouldn't have 6 different pairs of gloves as your BIS and things like that. It's important to understand what your end goal is for your gear. That's super important, I think. Like I plan out, I'm not going to take essentially any trinkets that are in my top 4, and if I take any in the top 4, it'll be either because no one else needs the other ones, or I won't go for the top ones, or something like that. So I think it's just important to plan out your gear, not just simply go on there and roll what's a higher item level, because it's all going to be higher item levels.
I do have a question to clear up a confusion I had this season.
Yep.
When it comes to deciding if something is BIS, we're obviously going into normal and heroic before mythic. Are we only considering whether it's BIS within that difficulty? Because, for example, the BIS trinket, if only considering normal, might be like 7th BIS if you consider heroic.
No, like I would consider, for example, as a healer, there is a cloth boots that give you mana. It's got spirit on them. Those boots are the BIS. The only way I'd upgrade those boots is I'd get the next level of them up. Same
Right.
with so
I'm
like let's say OCE from last season, BIS for a lot of people, you would put BIS on that. It is your BIS one.
Right, but I'm talking
trinket.
about the other scenario where it's BIS for the difficulty, but it's like 7th BIS for if you consider all 3 difficulties.
But it would be essentially it's still your if you had the mythic level, you'd still use it. It's your BIS trinket. It'll just be outdone by higher ones. In terms of item level, you mean? Like let's say OCE, but maybe the class trinket's better at a higher item level, but at the same level, OCE is still better than it.
Correct. So if we got like OC out of heroic, but Mythic class trinket was better, Mythic OC was better.
I think it's fine by
pick
difficulty.
other-
I
Okay.
think we'll be looking at trinkets again. If you think about what we did last time, if you have like a heroic OCE and a mythic one drops, we're going to give it to someone who doesn't have one of
Yeah,
those
of course.
trinkets. Those sort of trinkets are a unique scenario where the more people that have it, the better it is for the raid. So we will take that into consideration. There's a lot of trinkets that the difference between upgrading from a normal version of it to a mythic compared to not having the trinket at all is day and night, if that makes sense. So again, probably the healer trinket's a good one. If you've got the mana trinket from a shock, it makes sense to give it to a healer that doesn't have that trinket at all, rather than upgrade a healer from normal to mythic or heroic to mythic. Obviously, there's some exceptions to that. We'll have a look at it. But if there's other trinkets that do buffing along the raids or work better the more people have it, we'll make sure we spread those out. So maybe, if you're smart about it, you won't roll on the normal version. Maybe your trinkets are fine for a while, and you won't until you get to heroic. Maybe your trinket is from the last boss, so therefore getting the mythic version is pointless because we would have cleared the tier for you to get the mythic version. Whereas the heroic last boss is the BIS because you can't get a higher version until you clear the whole tier. So those are things you've got to take into consideration as well. Like maybe your best slot trinkets from the second last boss. Well, obviously you're not going to get that for a while from mythic. Heroic one will be better for you for the majority of that. Cool. Yeah, so again, all the channels for the bosses. Preparation's the big one for us. We just really need to be a lot more prepared for each boss going in there. A really good one I'll show you as well, if for people who haven't seen it, is the pineapple game. If no one's seen this, I'll just quickly show you the first level of it. Try to turn that music, it's pretty loud. This is essentially a mini game of all the bosses and the mechanic at a normal level. Simplifies it real small here. Tells you what to do. You actually have to do the mechanics, and then it happens. You can die in this if you don't do the mechanics.
Bro, leave on the boss.
Yeah, okay. Oh,
Stoke.
Oh my god.
Don't stand in the fire.
yeah, exactly. I don't want to take
Yeah,
damage.
there you go.
When's this pineapple raiding with us?
I don't know, man.
He's goaded.
So you got to get in this ignite. You got to take it to a route. And then obviously from this you can watch the guides and see this in the actual raid as well. When you watch like a stanky guide or something like that, and then it repeats. So this gives you a real good way to really quickly see the mechanics on the boss. Actually play it yourself. Start optimizing things. Obviously you want to cleave the boss. I'm going to go through all the bosses like this. So this is a really good tool to use to coming on a Wednesday, playing all the boss through this game, and then looking at the strategies after that. I think you'll go, oh, that's the boss where I was doing that. This is what it actually looks like in the raid. So these sort of tools, there's so many of them out there. Komi's already posted it in the overview channel, which is right at the top, along with Mythic Trap's strategy guides, all the resources I've got there so far. And there'll just be more and more come out, especially when the higher difficulties come and things like that as well. If you've got questions about bosses, those channels are the perfect place to ask, because again, they should be on topic for all of those. And then the other one, I guess, with attendance as well, we do have the attendance channel in the raid area as well. So if you're late or it's going to be last minute, just flick us a message if you can, whether it's private message to me or Komi or just in that channel saying you'll be late or can't make it. Anyone have any questions? Do you have anything to add to what I went through, Komi?
No, I don't think so.
We holding lockout still?
What do you mean, sorry?
Mostly for Mythic, obviously, but do we plan to just hold lockouts to prog all the time, or are we re-clearing? Because I know we held pretty much from day one, didn't we?
Last year was a little bit different just because when we started it, obviously there was no myth track, so the earlier bosses really provided zero value once you killed them.
Yeah, that's right.
It is different this time around, so chances are probably no. We will at some point extend, obviously, because we're going to have to. But my expectation would be more farm than last year.
I think it will come down to where that difficult boss is. Take, for example, in whatever the jailer one was. Painsmith was that. As soon as he killed Painsmith, no one wanted to re-clear and do that again. So that's where we extended. The big decision for the previous tiers were the gear became unworth it because, yeah, Mythic Plus gear from the chest was just higher item level, essentially. So, yeah, we'll play it by ear. We'll see how it looks. Maybe some of the early bosses are super easy. We smash them out, get a whole lot of gear from that, and then once we kill the first like kind of block, extend from there. But we'll have to see how that looks. Cool. Honestly, that's a lot of what I wanted to go through with everyone. Obviously, I want to welcome everyone. Talk a little bit about our guild. Talk a little bit about our expectations in the raid, and I think the big one is preparation. We need people to be knowing these fights before we get to them, asking some questions to clarify, things like that. Don't be afraid to ask questions, but we just need to be doing a lot more research and a lot more investigation before we enter the raid, before we get on the bosses. And Chromie and I will try to be as quick as we can with letting people know any strats or anything we're doing. We generally just do the basic strats like stanky guides and stuff. It's usually all figured out by the time we get there. So it shouldn't be too complicated, and normal should be a bit of fun just to really see where people are. And then when we get to Mythic, looking at our last few tiers, it's been about week 3 we've got our first kill, but usually a few bosses die at the same time, the same week. We'll be just bringing the strongest 20 in at that point. So item level will be a big thing for that, and performance and heroics will also dictate a lot of that as well. Cool. Well, honestly, that's it for me. Anyone's got any questions, feel free to hit me and come me up. We'll go through, but otherwise, Wednesday, 9 o'clock, which is 27 minutes ago for those on daylight savings, we'll be heading to normal. New raid.
Wait, 27 minutes ago or?
Yeah, ago.
Okay. I was going to say, did we change our time?
Yeah. No. Raid time is static. You changing your own
Yeah.
time.
Do we need to do one or more keys this week?
This week will just dictate the level of key you have next week. So your key will go down 11 levels. So I'd probably recommend trying to do a key just to save time doing other keys. There'll be plenty of people with keys, but the more people in the raid that have keys, then the better it is for that, if that makes sense.
A timed 21 is preferable, but you will get eye level upgrades from about a +8. So realistically, it's not going to take long to get to that point.
Would a times 21 matter? Because it's going to drop you down to 10, which is
Right.
like the most
right?
feasible. Like that's the easy way to get a decent key that'll drop a good eye level upgrade. Because that is a 10 to 13 range that'll drop the same eye level. So obviously you need to do a 25 or whatever to get to the next range, which is not. I don't know. We're pretty shit, so we're not going to do that.
Would that be at 22? Because minus 11 gets you to 11.
Either way, the higher
A
key you
10.
do, the better you get. I think +2s drop you 441 gear.
Yeah.
And then goes up from there. Answering nudes questions. We're not going to organize M+ groups. I think there's a lot of people who have days off, so there'll be a lot of keys during the day, keys afterwards, shit like that. So that sort of stuff is just going to be free for all, really. I think there's a lot of people who are.
Fuck out of keys.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of healers and
Shotgun Chromie.
DPS around. No, you can't shotgun Chromie.
Just did.
I do have a lot of tanks to put through keys.
There's plenty of tanks and healers around, and I think there's a lot of people who can do like a lot of both. So use the Mythic Plus channel, reach out. I'm sure people will be around.